I'm here with Sandar Nazi. How are you?
Great, great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's great that we finally got to do this. We've been planning it for a while now. We've had
Mm.
a couple of small interruptions, unfortunately, due to many different factors, both personal and spiritual, but finally we got to do it. And it's great that we actually got to do it on a beautiful sunny day, which is really rare here where I am in Ireland. So, pleasure to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good to have you on, brother. It's good to have you on. So, how do you want to kick this off?
Uh, well, first of all, before we say anything, as an official member of the group, I'd like to set out a disclaimer, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, just to let everyone know that these conversations are for entertainment purposes only and intended to individuals who are fully grown adults of age 18 plus. We are not responsible and take no liability for any actions, misinterpretations, or reactions certain individuals might have in the past, present, or future. And any possible association and affiliations with names and characters are strictly coincidental.
All right. So that's a pretty good disclaimer.
I've been working on it for a while to perfect it.
You've got to these days, man.
Well, it's part of the, let's call it, the law, you know,
Yeah.
which only
So,
applies which only applies to those that are bound by and only designed for by certain individuals, which I call our oppressors, so that they don't have to apply to it themselves. Of course.
exactly. Yeah, and it's so they can only have their own propaganda shoved through the internet as well. But
Well,
that's a whole other story, man.
we gotta
But
keep the control going, you know.
no, exactly. So, I wanted to start this off with asking you how you got into this path, and yeah, how did you get in this path, and how did you get into magic?
Oh, this is it's quite a hell of a story. I mean, we've already in the past. I mean, the short past. The we got affiliated into this and brought together. We've already discussed a couple of small points about it. But it is quite a handful
Mm,
because I mean, you would hear that most people that get into that come into this, they really have some sort of a connection or an interest beforehand or something, something that brings them into it. I am the exact opposite. I'm personally never had any interest or involvement in this, and to be honest, I never really 100% fully believed in it. As in, I did believe there was something out there because I had a basic A to B experience with what we could call spirits. I mean, let's say, for example, my very first experience would be because I'm also, for example, I'm ex-military, and I have been in places where there is a lot of negative energy gathered in one place because of things that may happen. So in one of these places in the middle of the night, I have seen shadow people, I have seen ghosts and stuff like that, which is nothing that the others haven't seen, because you could say that one person, for example, is losing their grip to sanity and is starting to see things in these kind of situations. But when we have another 300 to 3,000 men who have seen the exact same thing, you know,
mm,
then we can no longer call this a coincidence. But of course, it's not going to be made a big deal and it's not going to be discussed among us. We all, it's something that you would talk to with your closest of people. So it is a very common thing. Everyone who has been in these places is aware that there is something there, you know.
mm,
And the same can go, we can say the same for any kind of person. You can take someone who would say he was in prison once, okay? They will also have the exact same thing to say. Everyone has seen something. But of course, it's not something that they're going to bring openly to the common public once they go outside and talk about, you know? They will only
yeah,
talk people who they know that are affiliated there, and they know that we were there and we all saw the exact same thing. We're talking about masses, numbers of people who are, able to verify what they saw. But nevertheless, I never really, like I said, had any great connection to this. It all started extremely suddenly when I ended up dating a particular girl. She was Polish. She happened to be a witch. Now, At the time, I was affiliated with my very first company. I worked for a global business at this time, but I was in a different company at the time. That's when I first started. It was like my beginner stage of the whole thing, which also is an extraordinary thing that has nothing to do with my previous careers. Things unraveled in very strange ways. I went through different life transformations from being the exact opposite polarity to going into the business world, which, like I said, I never had any education or it was like a stage, the way it was set up. Now that you
Like
think
a
about
domino effect almost.
yeah, exactly. When you think about it years later, it will make sense because that's how the spirits work when they craft a path for you to come to them before they make them known. To be honest, in America, it's a big thing. They say that, they see it as in witchcraft and all that. It's like an evil thing or some kind of things like that. But here in Europe, we don't really have that issue. Like me personally, when she told me that she's a witch, I was like, okay. I mean, you do your little readings, you spark a couple of candles. It's a little hobby. That's how I saw it. It's a little hobby you have on the side, a small interest. A lot of people do that. In Eastern European countries, for example, you have advertisements on TV, okay? And there are tons of readers out there putting themselves out on official ads on TV, you know? And there's many, many lines. They're all over the place. They're on TV, they're on the newspapers. Anyone can call a reader, get a reading. Anyone can find someone who is a psychic. There is nothing to be hidden. So in the Central European and Eastern world, I wouldn't say we have an issue when it comes to that. So I personally didn't really, believe much into these things. It was the typical thing. You know how it is when you get into a relationship with someone like that. It's just like, yeah, you really believe in that stuff. She was like, yeah. I was like, come on, it's just a little hobby.
Yeah.
It happened one day, remarkably. We ended up going to a library, which I never really go. I never read. Okay? Or at least back then, I would never read. So as we went into this library, she would be looking around for her stuff. So I kind of started having a weird feeling, weird urge. Okay? Which of course you couldn't really understand what that is at the time, but it is, when the spirit is actually like with you and is giving you that urge to point you to the right direction, that kind of feeling.
Yeah, it's like a magnetic pull effect almost.
Exactly. Yeah. You have like a weird aura around you. It's kind of, how to say, it's like you have a cloud at the back. It's kind of like the wind, when the wind goes behind your back, kind of.
Yeah, and it's pushing you in a certain direction, yeah.
It's not aggressively. It's kind of like a breeze, so to say.
Mm.
Of course, I couldn't understand any of these things at the time. I never, like I said, I've never had gotten involved. I went into a section that wasn't even a code section, which was literally underneath the stairs before you could go onto the top floor, in front of the eyes of the whole world. Like, it wasn't even hidden. And they had all kinds of random, books thrown together in that particular shelf. Okay? Now, for some reason, I reached out all the way down below to the very, very last shelf, which was like so low that you really, really had to go down on your knees and like crouch into it to see if there was anything there. And at the very, very, very corner on the right side, there were like big, huge fat books, like that fat. And for some reason, I literally just reached into that and I pulled away. There was like 2 or 3 fat ones there on the very end, covering something. Like, you couldn't even see it, it was so well hidden. And as I pulled it, there was this teeny tiny black book. Okay? And I pulled it out and I looked at it, and it was Yahweh's Bible.
Mm.
Okay? And I was like, damn. Literally, it was like so well hidden, you could never, like, what are the chances of going into the library and finding that like this?
Yeah, that exact book as well.
The thing is, when I went to I don't know, something made me bite. I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm actually, out of curiosity alone, I said, I'm just going to take this. But of course, she was just like, don't touch that. I was like, look, it's just a book. Okay? It doesn't mean anything. And I mean, in the end of the day, because, after I got with her, I was starting, to see things, and, she was telling me about things, about the spiritual and the dark arts and all that. Once again, I never really took it upon me as something, true or anything. But I said, look, since you are into these things, I'm just going to take this little book and have a little read with it out of curiosity, because I'm a skeptical man as always, to see what it is about and what it says. I mean, what's going to happen? the earth is not gonna, open up and swallow me whole if I read a book. So I thought. And I did take it with me, and she kept telling me the way I feel about energy from this thing. I was like, there's nothing to feel. It's a book. Yet again, books do have energy, which, once again, I wasn't open to at the time. And the craziest thing is when I went to the counter, I just wanted to know, I asked the lady on the counter if she could just search a little bit on the system and let me know that if there is any other copies of this book or if this is the only one. She literally says, I don't even know where you found this, and we didn't even know we had it. It's literally, there's nothing more left, and it's probably not going to be coming ever again in here, like order.
Yeah.
So,
Damn.
I don't know, they either got rid of them or someone didn't want you finding it. It was so well hidden. It was literally the last specimen. And years later, I've been to the same library on and off just to check out of curiosity. You will never find this book. And I've asked the ladies on the counter as well. The book is not there. It's not coming back again, ever. It was the last specimen.
Damn.
Okay. So I did take it, and I did read it. And once again, of course, my ex-girlfriend at the time was just snapping. Okay, telling me not to read it. And I wanted to tease her. So I was like, I went to the pub where there's the 9 and Oak and Keys. And I said, I'm going to read this out loud. Okay? And you see, nothing is going to happen. So I read it, and nothing did happen. Now, I was a little bit tired, to be honest. And I had been, at the time before Corona and all that, I was still, involved heavily with sports and all that, because I always, make sure that you remain healthy. Because since my last affiliation where I served in the Foreign Legion, I made huge changes in my life, okay? Because I thought that, after you survive so much and you come back, there's a reason to it. So I made healthy changes. I ended up stopped smoking. I became 100% oriented to nutrition. I followed clean nutrition all year round. I wanted to kind of revive my old career to help me, mentally get back into the civilian world. So I got involved with the boxing team, so I became very committed there. And I made 180 turn all the way. I reduced drink, everything, which has a huge aspect. We're gonna say this later to the spiritual aspect that you would need if you were to work with dark energies, because they can be very heavily benevolent on the body and mind if one doesn't know how to balance themselves out. So yeah, at the time where I got to the Keys, for some reason they did start going kind of red into the book. They had a kind of like literally they just flashed like red.
Like a red aura.
Like when I say red, I'm talking about blood red. Okay, there was an aura behind the black letters. It literally went. And I was like, that's weird. But whatever. I didn't take that into effect. I was just like rubbing my eyes. I was like, I didn't really believe it. I was just like, okay, I'm tired, whatever. Now, on the final day, when I did finish this book, what happens is literally this huge urge mentally came into me where I literally just said, do you know what, damn, this actually makes sense. I mean, it is logical in a way. And for some reason, I felt this urge kind of like, when you're drunk and you're kind of feeling this tipsiness and all that? When it's kind of going like within your body and chest kind of,
Yeah.
Mostly you feel that when you're in this and it's a little bit hot, you feel this. And I felt this, kind of going, and I don't know why, but I literally just went boom, and I stayed there, and I was like, what? And I literally, what happened there for the next 3 seconds, the entire room changed temperature like that. It became very, very warm, but not like fiery warm where you're like, damn, sweating, I can't breathe. Like very, very warm, as if the sun itself had would come into the room. Okay? And I felt this feeling of light and unconditional love for these 3 seconds. And then, and it's kind of like, how to say, this feeling they put in the movies where it's like,
yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
And then it disappeared like a boom. And then when I woke up after 3 seconds of that, I was like, that was weird. I don't know what the fuck happened in here. I don't know what that was, but I'm having a rough day. I'm gonna go to bed, and I'm gonna forget any of this took place. I'm just gonna ignore it because whatever that was, it was a weird feeling, and I don't know what happened. Okay? Now, little did I know that this means that the man himself is behind you. Okay? Now, I didn't know that, but he was behind me. Literally, that the solar aspect of Lucifer himself is behind you, and you have managed somehow to make contact. Years later, of course, I found out from the spirits themselves that it is not the book that accidentally somehow made contact, because let's face it, anybody can pick up a book. Anybody can pick up a book. It doesn't accidentally or automatically, it's not like a button. It's not going to summon something just because you read the book.
The book is not the bridge between the worlds, it is the person, definitely. Yeah.
If something like this happens so easily, because I get people, for example, that are newbies that'll be like, I've been calling something for so long, and I'm about to give up. Like, or people who say for the last 2 years I've been calling, and nothing has appeared to me. It's like, dude, if it's not meant for you, it's not gonna happen. Nothing will appear. But in this case, something crazy. People are struggling, kicking themselves all the time for manifestations, and next thing you know, someone picks up a damn book, and boom. So there's no pressure. It means that they've been with you since a very young age. You just weren't aware, and later on, years later, when you're more ready and more developed, they will show you exactly when they were with you and how, and they will show you. Let's say I've been shown, for example, things from school where I used to daydream while the teacher was talking, and I started getting this weird kind of hypnotic feeling, and then I'd start having pumps here, like boom, 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 third eye pumps. I thought that I was daydreaming as I was a kid, but this means that there's a spirit there. So, or for example, I was told years later about 2 dreams that I had when I was a kid, which of course I had completely forgotten because I was about 6 years old, and nobody remembers dreams from when they were 6. Okay, that was Belial himself who told me about this. There was a dream where I was like in a dark place, and there was like a little wooden hut behind me, and I was trying to run away, and then there was a huge face of a woman with black hair and kind of like almost monstrous, draconic looking face, but still human, and sharp teeth and yellow eyes. And she was laughing at me, and then I was raised up into the air and I couldn't run away. And I was like kind of floating in the air, like, shit. Now, little did I know that was Lilith's true form reaching out. She's the very first one that reached out to me, trying to make herself known and pretty much saying that she's the spiritual mother for this incarnation. Of course, I was a kid. I just thought I've been watching too many horror movies. And when you're a kid, of course, you cannot just go out and talk to anyone about some dream that you saw like that. They're just going to say, if you watch too many horror movies, you get a slap in the back of the head, like, don't speak, get out of here. And then that's it. It's going to be ignored, basically, as a kid if you say things like that. The second one is much more interesting. The second projection, which took place, which was, by the way, it was no dream. These are all astral projections. But you're not aware of that. And this is a huge sign, because what kid projects at, say, age 6, without them even trying anything? So what happened is, at that time, I ended up being in a place that was full of fiery earth and fire all around me, which was weird. And I wasn't a kid. I was literally the dude that you see right now, wearing these exact damn fucking clothes. Okay?
Yeah, whoa.
Literally. Nicely shirt and trousers. And across me there was this black dude with yellow snaky eyes and sharp vampiric teeth. And he had kind of like a beard around him like that. Short hair, kind of like mine, very similar to mine, but much shorter. And he had this big elephant tusk coming out of his arm like that, from both arms. Okay? And he roared at me, and I roared at him back, and we ran at each other in this hellish, fiery environment that we were in. It was like lava on the floor, but it wouldn't burn me, although I was running into it. The fire around, like, still, you wouldn't feel it, And we fought with this man, but I kind of lost because he was extremely strong. Okay, like it took all my strength to make his chin just go a little bit like this, And he did fight, but at some stage I kind of lost. So what he did is he grabbed me with his left arm by my left heel, my ankle, okay? And he lifted me up, and he literally just went and bit me on my left heel. And that's when I woke up. It literally just went shoo. Like I woke up and I went, boom, jumped like a vampire or something, you know, like Dracula in the movies, like. And I was like, what? And then I started feeling a bit funny, and I looked at my leg on my ankle, and there was a pinkish reddish bite mark on it. Now, little did I know this was Balthagor, and he marked me for future communication. When you are marked, you know, any other spirit that sees you, whether you are aware of them or not, they will know who you are either associated at the moment or will be associated later in the future, you know? So it is a protection and a magnet at the same time. That does not mean it repels, for example, angelic forces, because they will also be around you as well. Because, you know, we need to understand the importance of duality in the universe. You know, each has a role to play, each polarity is there for its own purpose. They're both in our lives, like it or not, okay? Because I personally don't support the anti-cosmic view because it doesn't make any sense. If you go deep into these things in advance, you will be educated by spirits alike, and they will basically tell you, my man, none of that is valid. Okay, these are labels put in by mortals, by humans. Okay,
Exactly.
think on as such and such and such, and you will be educated within minutes about these kind of views. But I'd rather leave that personally for everybody to discover through their own paths, as it is very personal. Because if I start saying, for example, that there is no real conflict between the two worlds because the two trees are there for balance, plus the middle pillar in the middle, people will argue because people like to argue in the. So going back to what happened there, basically, after I read the book, I kept on about my day, and 3 days later, when I was in this exact very room, I came in, I went to bed, as usual, nothing specific or, you know, different that day. And as I was in bed, ready to, you know, literally just put my blankie out, and I was like, let's call it a day, you know, let's pass out for the day, you know. The air got extremely thick. And when I say thick, like hard to breathe thick, like within 1 second, like boom, everything just went boom. And I was like, what? Ah! And then I started seeing, because where I am, like literally, my bed literally looks over this way. And I started seeing on my ceiling, on this very ceiling above me here, a black whirlpool that started circulating on the ceiling. Slowly. Okay? Like pitch black. I was in complete darkness because when I sleep, I don't need light. Like light, it doesn't let me sleep. I can't sleep with light. But this darkness was so like 3D, which was darker than the dark itself. But see it 100% clearly, as if
It makes the darkness look like nothing in the room. Yeah.
it's like 5D, so to say, kind of. You know, you can see it clearly. It's like right there. And as this was spinning, a mass of black shadow fell almost like, well, I don't want to say like feces, but let's say, you know, like a big pile that just literally just went pop and fell on the floor. And then the portal just stopped, you know, because the portal literally went down into whatever fell down there. Now I'm sitting there, marble, looking at this like, you know, I don't know. The dumbest look you could ever imagine that I pulled was there that day. And this shapes up and goes and shapes into a half goat man from the waist below, like a proper, like, you know, muscular, you know, athletic, not too big but not too small body on the top, and a goat beard, okay, and horns. The rest was all normal human. And then it starts flying hectically to the left, to the right, to the middle, to the left, to the right, you know? And I could hear its voice in my head, which didn't really make sense because it was too fast, it was too chaotic, you know? It's like a fast forward on a conversation. You know, it's kind of like, and you're like, what? What the fuck is going on? You know, I was like Marvel. Now,
Yeah.
this is where you will become aware of how programmed everybody is. Because you spend all your life being told what to believe and what is real and what is not. So you have this being that is manifested before you like this. Okay, it is the very rare 100% manifestation, which within numbers of years it will only happen 2 or 3 times. Okay, so people should not be delusional and look for that all the time because it takes a ton of energy, half of that spirit to do that. Okay,
And it takes a lot of energy for the spirit as well, definitely. Yeah.
takes through the veil, and for it to stand before you, it can only do for a short time, and it takes huge amounts of energy.
Mm.
Especially if you're not new, it's harmful. It's harmful for people as well if they're not used to this kind of energy and current.
It can drive them nuts.
In the beginning it is because it will cause you anxiety. Your heart starts racing.
Yeah.
You start feeling kind of like stabbing. Like little claws going here on your, and you don't happen. I just ignored it and I said, "This isn't real. This isn't happening. I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know what this thing is. I'm just gonna ignore it." I said, and I'm just gonna turn around and go to bed. It's not gonna be there. It's only in my head. I'm having a rough day. This isn't happening. I just ignored completely what was happening right in front of me. So I did so. And the second I turned around and tried to ignore it, I literally felt it coming over like this and then boom, it was touching me with his hand. And I was like, what?
Shit.
And then I thought, okay, maybe this is a little bit real, but I'm still going to ignore it. So I put my head on the fucking blanket. This is not happening. I'm not talking to this thing. I don't know what that is. I'm just going to go to bed. And literally, the second I did that, it was like 3, 2, 1. Boom! I passed out like poof, lights out. Okay? And all I seen was darkness. And I seen this thing in the distance. And it was just like a distance, like this small, so far away. And then the whole thing just like went like a camera, like zoop. And he was right here in my face. And all I could see is him. And he was like very, very skinny, long arms. He had tiger colors on him, yellow claws, white hair backwards, like very, very white. I'm talking like, the Witcher dude from the series? That white,
Yeah.
but very, very thin, as if very, very gelled backwards, straight like that. And a long kind of face and very yellow, snaky eyes. But normal.
This is Lucifer, isn't it?
No, it's not. No. From what I believe, years later, it took me years to figure out. I think it's Mephistopheles because it's that exact same face as a gargoyle. He came to me once with a kind of a purple thunder mark, kind of on his left side on the eye. Nothing to do with Harry Potter. let's not get confused. We just had this weird mark that was going like that. It was kind of wave-ish, not exactly as a. I'm just using, thunder. And he was the same face, so I think it was him, because the human aspect of the face was the same. It was just that he was like kind of like a blackish gargoyle with that mark thing and the wings and all that. And he was sitting kind of in a gargoyle position when he came to me. That was one of my very old past workings that I did. So I think it was him, and he was sent out to me, and I was like, "What is going on?" And this thing starts talking to me. Okay, and it started to try to figure out if I actually agree with whatever was in the book. But I didn't, once again, me not knowing what's going on, I didn't really know what to say to this thing. I foolishly just turned around and said, "Could you leave me talk?" I don't know why the hell I said that. And all she did, he opened his eyes wide and went, and then he just left. He didn't say nothing, he just left. Now, a few weeks later, I completely ignored everything, how it happened. A few weeks later, I was once again with the exact same girlfriend, and it was weekend, and I was about to wake up. And I was in this trance where before you wake up, you're kind of like, half awake, but your eyes are still closed, but you're not fully awake. So I tried to wake up, and then I literally go back into sleep, and like something dragged me. And all I seen was a long-haired blonde dude with huge wings. When I'm talking about very, very big wings, like 2 meters span, okay? And he was palish, whitish. He had this perfectly triangular, similar to mine, but much more perfectly nose, okay? Like a literally 90-degree perfect looking, nose, like chiseled jaw. He was, athletic, abs, whatever. It's the kind of dude that makes you say, if you're a straight man, you look at him, you were like, ooh, who are you, man? He was covered in golden light that blinded me first, but then when you focus on it, it clears out and you can see him clearly from the waist and up. Hopefully he didn't show me anything else. and I was like, who is that? And then the name started shooting into my head like a bullet all the time. You know, Lucifer, Lucifer, Lucifer. But I couldn't get it. But I didn't speak because I was like, once again, I was like, I really don't know who this dude is. I don't know what to say to you and why things like that just keep popping in. You know, I invited everyone. You know, because I was already traumatized from this that I saw here. You know, because after it left, my body was in anxiety. You know, because that was literally the very first experience with possession. And when you're not used to it, you were left like, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's intense, man.
Like I passed out on my side and I woke up literally like that. You know what I mean? On a
Mm.
different position. And then it was like you come back from the dead or something. And then I passed out again in 2 seconds, like, wow. You know? So that didn't happen with him. But all he said to me, because I wasn't really sitting there looking at him like, hey. Literally, all he said to me was, I am the one and true God, and my magic is goldener than the sun, which didn't make any sense to me at all. And I was like, okay, whatever you're into, kind of thing, you know. And then he shot me back out, so I wake up after he's, because I really didn't know what to say, so he just literally let go of me, and I literally woke up again, and I was like, boom, and I go to the girlfriend, what's here? Yeah, weird moments like that keep happening, you know, again and again. But then I kept ignoring it because, to be honest, like I kind of got to the point where I'm like, this is freaky, this is scared. I don't know. I don't really want to, you know, associate with any of this. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that's when issues started. There was one particular day where the worst of the worst happened. It was Valentine's Day. And I took the exact same girlfriend again to a restaurant. She never tried Greek before. I said, let's go to a Greek restaurant. You know, you gotta love it. You know, they have so many varieties. She was like, okay, I've never been into one. She didn't even eat the whole day of food. I ended up eating everything because she didn't even have any more space. I had a little bit of wine, but not drunk in that sense. So, when we were coming back, we ended up, long story short, being attacked randomly close to her door, okay, by 3 drug addicts, okay? I, of course, tried to do my best to defend us both. I managed to somehow kick her into the building and shut the door, okay? So I stayed out. And they, of course, had a big, huge knife, which was about 30 centimeters long, okay? It was a scout knife. I managed to see it. It had a bended grip, which allows for maximum penetration. Literally, a 12-year-old can kill you with that, okay? Snipers use them all the time because they're pretty, you know, they're pretty easy to use and light because they need, you know, they need to be mobile all the time, hiding behind enemy lines and all that. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know where the hell they got these things because they tend to be expensive. Okay,
There's a big knife problem in Ireland and the UK as well, I've heard.
it's a big joke. It's 30 centimeters for the blade alone. Because
That's a mini sword, man, not a knife.
I saw the official report of the police. You know, they had it written down. You know, they only measure the blade because the blade is what's you know, for the case. The blade is what's going to be interesting for them because they see what kind of danger to the victim's life it had. You know, so they will only measure the blade. So if it says 30 centimeter, that means the blade alone was this much, plus about 5 more for the grip. It was a big thing. It wasn't a small yoke. Unfortunately, like I managed to make them drop it. Okay, in this whole chaos of going on, because they would come back, run away, come back, run away, and at the same time, I have the woman, you know, to try and you know help because there's 2 of them here, 1 of them there, you know, because you keep going up, and it was crazy. Okay, just full of food. I'm about to explode from all the food. My belly is sluggish. You know, I was sluggish because of a little bit of wine that I had. You know, so it was difficult. It's not like I was wide awake, you know, ready to go. I'm full of food, ready to go to bed. Like,
Yeah.
you know? So I managed to make them drop it, and before I go grab it, I felt this forceful wind literally ram my left leg and just go into it. And it felt like a sword into my leg out of nowhere. There was no one there. I fell on my knee, and it was so difficult to get back up. I literally felt like someone took a samurai sword and just went boom. So, yeah, we managed to pick it up. When I got caught in a dark corner, which was small, and I didn't have much space. So I tried to dodge whatever I could. So out of all these swings that came at me, 4 of them got me. 2 in the lung and 2 in the left arm. Okay? Now, mind you, this attack happened on a crossroads. Okay? The attackers were 3, and there were 2 statues of dogs on a shop across the street. Okay? Now, what I didn't know is that Lucifer himself got pissed off that I've been denying all this. So he threw this at me and bit me in the leg to sabotage me and get hurt from them. So I wouldn't pick up the knife. Okay? Which of course took me about 2 years to find out later on. Okay? I didn't find out straight away. I just couldn't make sense of it all at all. So I was hospitalized. In 5 days I was able to walk again. You know, it was bad. I mean, I had a big open hole with a bag that was here. You know, I was carrying around. It was bad. You know, it was whatever. And while I was in the hospital, all sorts of things would happen. Like I'd be sitting there in the night, and I'd see a little short, old man, baldish, looking like an Nosferatu kind of dude, kind of pushing this thing that the grannies used to walk on. You know, too tiny.
The little walking frames.
Yeah, something like that. I think he just disappeared. You know, and he was dark skinned. I think I know who it is now because I'm hearing the voice. Yeah, I think that was a Big King B. Kind of like, you know, he does weird, funny forms sometimes just to say what's up. And yeah, like I'd be falling asleep and then I'd be visited by Asmodeus himself, and then Paimon came with him. Okay? On a separate night as I was in the hospital, Belial came around himself. Like all in dream states, you know, no physical manifestations or anything like that. Like I'd be asleep and then they'd come to me as their sigil and speak to me. So I'd understand them, you know? Like literally all you see is darkness and the sigil is going boom, and then they talk to you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And after this, like in time, I actually got involved and I said, you know what? Screw this. I'm just gonna see. I mean, if this was real, that everything that I've seen so far is real, then what else is real? You know. So the urge for knowledge then comes in, and then you just keep going and going, and then you get into it. Now we could say I was kind of dragged into it by force. We could say, you know, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. This has been going on ever since. I mean, the years later, after I was in a path working with the man himself, my own spirit guides came and told me that it was him who did it. And they spontaneously said this to me because I don't know why they wouldn't say this to me before. And a few days after this had happened, for example, I was in my girlfriend's again. I was still hurt, and Saint Michael came and he spoke to me, and he came to comfort me. He said, "I came because you needed me, and I love you." So I couldn't really understand what he meant by that at the time, but then later on, you know, through different interactions and evocations, I managed to make sense that he was there to help. And of course, I connected with Raphael as well, who's an amazing being. And ever since I got into, you know, path workings and to develop and trying to make sense of it all, and more knowledge kept coming as more as I practiced. And they brought different people to me, which is strange. They can do this. They can coordinate people through social media to come to you. Like, for example, the exact same way we randomly met. And there was another person that I randomly met as well who helped me connect and initiate into the current of King Belial for the very first time. And that's how it all really skyrocketed, because before my attempts, even though I managed to connect with spirits, they weren't really to the extent that I would want. Okay? For example, my very first time I tried calling Alazel, and it didn't really work, of course. Second time I called Cameo, and it did work. He came to me in a dream, and we actually had a great laugh. He was very funny, you know. He kind of like shapeshifted into some girl that I liked in school, at work for the time, you know, for the time. And I was like laughing. I was like, "Oh, nice shape." And well, it was weird. Like, and then I could see on his legs there was this kind of like brownish weird liquid dripping, and then I was like, I pretended I'm gonna lick, and he like literally died laughing, and I laughed as well. And you know, he was like, "Hey," I was like, "Look, jokes apart, you're not gonna be working with me." I was like, "Oh, look, we're having a good time. You're nice. I like it." He was like, "No, you're gonna have to keep going. You're on the track." He says, "You're on a good path. You're on the right road, but you are not quite there yet. Keep going, and you will see. It will all work out." I was like, "Okay, tricky though, because I like him. I really like him. He was He was one of my best interactions with that beings, to be honest. Like he was one of the funniest. But of course, since he was human, and they tend to understand us, human spirits, they tend to understand us a little bit more. Whereas those who were never human can be a little bit more on the unapproachable side.
Yeah, well, it's like an alien, really, almost.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's difficult for them to understand you. Kind of like, let's say, if you were in a vampire movie and you're talking to the vampire elders, this kind of thing. So they can be dangerous if you don't give the right answers. You gotta have the right approach, the right way to speak, the right answers, the right questions. You can't just come in there and say, "Yeah, what's up? I'm here to chitty chat" and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At best, you'll be ignored. Okay, at the best case scenario. At the worst, something bad will happen to you because you are annoying them. So you gotta know. I think it's for people. It's vital. Knowledge is the problem. The lack of knowledge. It's not who they go to. It's how they go to and what kind of knowledge they bring to the table before they do so. So with President Mabas, for example, he was one of the nicest and most honest, as he's very well known for that. He literally gave me some knowledge of people's health who I knew and some friends, and I told them about it, and they were amazed that I knew stuff about their health and all that. And he literally passed me a sigil of who to go to next. Okay, and it was the sigil of Baal itself.
Baal.
Now, for those who are not aware, Belial himself has many aspects. Okay, the way I would describe aspects for people to understand, because there's a lot of dispute around the two. If you have a big black cloud, this black cloud is an energy form, and it can break into smaller black clouds here and there. These are the aspects. Now, the aspects can appear at the same time or separate. They can agree or disagree with each other, okay? But they are all part of the one big black cloud. And when they merge all together, then you have the whatever dude you think that you...
There's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called. It's a Lord of Darkness or something like that, along those lines.
It's a meta god, as they call it. It's the great form, the greatest aspect of these that comes in all its aspects together. But most of the people are just going to be dealing with the aspects, which can be different in voice, appearance, in character, in opinions, everything. And the thing is, spirits don't really care who you think they are. They're just going to come and say what they want to say and go. So to confuse them, it's very difficult. You really have to dig deep. It takes years to understand the aspects and who is who. Or they will tell you themselves. So just so you won't really go astray, so they know exactly, where you have to be. Then I got involved with this person, and then that's when it was my very, very first kickoff, my very, very first path working. And that's where I met Belial himself, because going through different kinds of spirits and all that, I kind of decided that I need someone. Little did I know he was influencing my mind the whole time. I needed someone with attributes that corresponds to me as a character. I didn't know this, but I was literally channeling things from him at the time, because he's been urging me to call for a long time. But to be honest, I was also kind of scared, and I was thinking maybe he'd be a little bit too high and too difficult to deal with, since he's second rank, and I don't really have any knowledge at this time. I was I didn't really know what to do. So I thought maybe leave him alone, because I've already had this happen to me. Which I didn't know how or who was responsible for at the time. But I still thought maybe it's not a good idea to go, start from the top of the pyramid, start from the bottom. But yet again, I was confused. The bottom was telling me to keep moving, And they were like,
They want you in the deep end, pretty much.
On the lift, they're first floor, second, no, go back, up.
Yeah.
So I got involved with this person. He brought to me literally randomly through the internet, and he got me to the point where he gave me some things to do, which helped me develop. Did some rituals, of course, on my own. Spell casting for my own desire that I wished I was always doing by myself. I wasn't really asking spirits for it. Because I do believe we also have to learn how to be independent and to be able to work with our own selves. Not always begging the spirit to do something for you, especially if your desire is material things. They will have some extra difficulty to manifest these, so you're better off asking for alchemical attributes and transformations, which will enable you to do these things yourself, and you will get these materials by your own manifestation and your own power. Because
exactly,
that's your own power. It's not going to develop, really. What the spirit does is it gives you keys to unlock doors within you that are already there. Okay, it's not really giving you some crazy power that you didn't have before, because the darkness cannot really create, but it can boost what's already there. That's how they work. That's the fundamental function of primordial dark energy. It cannot create that from nothing, but what it can do is it can boost what you already have.
The same as the abyss. The abyss, Abaddon explained to me, is a place where one can unlock their potential. Like
Exactly.
it's like unlimited potential that the person already possesses. Yeah.
You must have something to be developed to begin with when you're dealing with dark energies. You can't go in and ask for miracles like people do. You know, like all these funny things that a lot of occultists for hire would have to say, like, oh yeah, there's this dude who wants to make 2 billion and he's offering Boone 2 bottles of wine. Like Boone is all about just bottles of wine. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've heard stuff like that. It's very comical. It is. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
people are very erratic. You know, they don't understand. And I mean, at this point, when you listen to things like this, it's like, spare me the verbal defecation, please. Okay.
yeah.
I'm a human being, and I'm not gonna give you anything for 2 bottles of wine. Okay. Take it this way. 2 bottles of wine won't get you much. They might get you a nice date, but that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
bad.
I'll get you 2 billion. Okay. So this is when the exact opposite comes in. When I met King Belial, because so many people have so many horror stories to say, and so many people say many things that, oh, he hurt me, or he's very harsh, or I got punched in the back of the head because I said something he didn't like, which was probably something stupid, which you deserved it. I would have done the same. I was like, out of here. I actually had one of the best cooperations with him personally, I have to say. It's literally the exact opposite of the majority of people. Like, he never, like, insulted me. He never tried to boss me or anything like that. I mean, there were a few times in the beginning. The first 6 months are difficult because he has to get to know you. You have to get to know him. Just because the spirit can read your mind doesn't mean it knows you 100%. You know, it takes time for a connection to be built. So he's gonna tell you how to develop. He's gonna give you tasks. You have to go on with them, both alchemically and personally. And that's how the connection would be built. Here and there, some small offerings you might give, and then the gears are set in motion the second you start working with the king. But I would urge people to understand that you can't simply just by accident go and stand before any spirit just like that. And these stories that are being put out there is literally from people who are not supposed to either be involved in this, because if it's meant for you, it will come into your life, like it or not, somehow. It will shoot in like a bullet. You deny it, fortunately, bad things will happen until you get the meaning, because it's meant for you. It's calling. I would much urge people to get involved with the occult, especially on the dark side, more if it either calls to you in some way or if it makes itself in a strong way, like it did to me. You know, which is rare, of course. We're not all meant to associate with this, and for a good reason. Because let's be honest, the occult is not safe and never has been. Okay, and it takes a very strong mind and body to be able to work with dark energies. That's exactly why I'm such a fanatic with my own health. Okay, and I do not go anywhere near, especially now at this stage where I've reached. I have no. I'm literally. It's. I think it's what we call going Zen. I'm free from desire. I do not need any alcohol. I have no urge for substances whatsoever. I've even lost this. Well, when you're younger, you have this unexplained lust urge. Where all the young guys be looking around for women all the time. And it's every weekend we got to go to the clubs and the bars and look for women and have fun and get drunk and all that. Literally, all that is gone. Like, I can literally sit here, look at the sky, meditate, and I'll be happy. I don't need anything else.
It's like it almost ages you, like in a maturity sense of way, like.
Even speaking at some at stages as if you are ancient, and I've been told even at work from people like, "Oh, dude, you sound like an ancient king or something." I'm like,
Yeah.
knowledge comes in many forms. I don't control when it happens. I think sometimes spirits do come through themselves on an on and off basis. But yeah,
Oh yeah, especially if they like the subject you're talking about.
Exactly. But then overall, I have developed immensely with King Belial. Like, he's earth energy. Okay. What he gave to me when he came into me the first time, his earth energy really, really grounded me because I'd be very impulsive and very immature before, you know? And this has helped me develop immensely, especially in the business world where I am, okay? It really, really skyrocketed things, my perception, everything. I started thinking like, you know, a solid man who has his goals set, because most people go through life guessing, you know? I stopped guessing and wondering. I set goals and I went forward for them. You know, more than half of this, 80%, 80 to 90% of this is gonna be, of course, your own human work, and you gotta go into it. But he's gonna put some small opportunities going, and he will push you a little bit. But to work with him, I would say you must share some attributes. You must have a strong mindset that is similar to him as a character. You must be able to understand his views, and if you agree with him, then you know he's meant for you. If you happen to be one of these people who have primal raw energy, which is red, it's his color and attributes very well to him, which is a part of the so-called spiritual DNA that most people don't understand, because you know the biological DNA is just a set of lines. It doesn't create a soul. There is a formula used to your creation and everybody's creation, and this formula is the spiritual DNA, which defines how your path is going to go, how spirits appear to you, who you're meant to work with, and everything that's revolved around the personalization of your own path. It's literally all part of your spiritual DNA, which is your formula of creation that was put into there. What kind of astral material and attributes were used? Okay, and literally before you get into this, you're literally floating in the astral. Because the first time Belial came to me, I was literally floating in the astral, and he came into me like this, and yeah, he said, "I'm here." And I was like, "Oh, but I've been calling you. Did you get all the offerings and all that?" And he raised his left eyebrow like this. He was like, "Huh?" I was like, "I mean nothing. It's okay. We're gonna get this whole thing going. Don't worry." Basically, he wasn't really there when I was calling at the time, you know. So he was just like, "Huh?" He gave me the look, that kind of look like he does sometimes. Huh? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's okay. He was like, "Yeah, don't worry. I shall visit you again in 3 days," he says, "and we will work it out from there." That's it. Well, he did take a little piece of my leg from my astral double, which is of course necessary. You will have to give something. You cannot just get into this, you know. It does not.
Nothing is free when it comes to this path.
But you have to give a piece, you know. And then it all skyrocketed. And to be honest, I mean, he's one of my best experiences. But you do have to show him that you have the guts, what it takes. Because let's say he will test you, he will lapirize you in the beginning to fuse you with his own energy, and you will not know he's doing that. So you try to fight him back. I did. But it's not actually an insult. You will not believe. He's weird like that. He respects it. You know? And you show him you actually, how to say, you have guts, you have a pair. You know?
Yeah, I know.
And he was like, "I will hurt you again and again and again." 6 months off.
He doesn't want any pushovers working for him, essentially, or with him.
He's extremely militarized. You know, he will push you to the very last brick of where you break down. You know? 6 months I was fighting him off with everything I had. Sages, exorcisms. I was like, "Oh, let's go. This is funny." You know? But he was hurting again and again and again. To the point where you're like, "Okay, it's not funny anymore." Hang on, like you got half dead. And then he's like, "Okay." Now he stops. And then empowerment comes through knowledge. You know? So that's how he works. He's like an army buddy. You gotta have a fight to become friends. That's how it works in this world. It's a strange world. Most people won't understand it, but that's how it works. You have to show this particular king you have guts to stand before him to begin with.
Definitely. They love the warrior aspect within people, 100%, yeah.
He does. Other spirits would be insulted. Or they wouldn't harm you in such a way to make you fight, you know? But this one does. He's like that, you know? You gotta show him your worth of anything. And then it took me 3 years of work for him finally to turn around and say, "Okay, now I believe you are worthy of what he calls my true help, which is the true knowledge, the true black alchemy, and the true abundance." Like he talks to me a lot about, abundance within business, and now he's only starting to talk about monetary stuff, which I never really asked him before. And the best thing you could do when you work with a spirit, don't ask for anything. They will give you what they want and on afford. And it will not be something small if you have the brains to just let them assess you in this way. Stick to the alchemical aspect, and then the material stuff like this will come in by itself. And they can be very generous, believe it or not. For dark beings, they can be extremely generous when you show that you have what it takes and what they want. Now, the problem with the occult is we unfortunately get a lot of people who don't really have the strong mentality mindset for what it needs to be to work with these beings, or they have some mental issues. Okay, that's not to say that we want to look down on anybody, but you should not get involved with these beings if you have issues as such, because their energy, even if they don't want to do this to you, their energy is so heavy to this extent that it will actually take these negative faculties and it will boost them to be more negative. Because as we said, the nature of the primordial energy is that of creating what is there to what can be seen as, I don't want to say perfection because nobody's perfect, but to develop it to the highest possible extent. So if you have good qualities, they're going to become even greater. But if you have bad qualities, they're going to become worse.
It'll empower both everything plus the shadow itself. Like when I got empowered by Abaddon, like I wasn't expecting my shadow to be empowered at all, and because I wasn't doing shadow work, I wasn't doing the work essentially, and just wanting power. Like he empowered my shadow on purpose to make it more dominant, to teach me a lesson, to really integrate my shadow more. So yeah, I'd highly agree with that.
That's what Belial did to me as well. The very first thing, I actually saw shadow self. It's just you, in my case, with pitch black eyes, and it has like a, kind of like the Nordics have this black line that they used to draw for certain rituals. That's how mine looked like, at least.
Who? Belial.
Shadow self. That's how mine looked like.
Oh yeah.
Like I saw him proper. The same night that Belial told me that, oh look, your shadow is rising, control it before it destroys you, kind of thing, which sounds a little bit, ooh, but basically means this is the very first part. When you're working with him, we go into the shadow work, which you need to do. So you have to do yourself to fix your faculties and come into balance. And this brings all kinds of emotional, up and downs. But once you're strong and you balance these things, it's literally it's gonna be going like that, and then boom, then it stays there. And then you're like, okay, after this, you're ready for the next step. He works in patterns. With him, it's like you press a button, and the gears go into motion. And of course, later on, if it's meant for you, you're gonna be put through crossing the abyss. You're gonna be put through the tunnels of Seth, which these are path workings which are difficult, extremely rough for mind and body. But everything works in a pattern. I've seen. They have like a specific goal. From the very moment you become aware of them, to the time that you're going to be going through this and that path working, they just bring it in and out of you. Different spirits come in and out, different teachings, different path workings again, same spirit comes back again, or its aspects change one after the other. It's an endless cycle of development and knowledge, one after the other. It's literally like
that just reminded me of the circle of Leviathan, the serpent constantly devouring itself and then growing more, continually going in a circle.
Exactly. And you go in ever since you will be, after you pass a specific point of the first 3 years, in my experience, are the roughest. After that, then that's when all the good stuff starts. But these beings test you for a very long time. 3 years is a long time. But you will get angry at them, and you will be like, "You're not giving me anything. I'm giving you whatever. I'm giving you whatever offerings you want. You're giving me nothing."
Well, it makes sense because if they're going to give someone the power, the spiritual power, per se, of a bazooka, they're going to want to make sure that person's stable enough to wield it,
Exactly. People tend to abuse whatever power is given to them. Or, like I like to say, which I've learned from the king, power consumes those who cannot handle it. He always does this thing with the claws, and he has this very deep, slow way. Power consumes all. I love when you do that. It's cool. It's real cool. Just the way he speaks. It's also authority. For me, it's like, wow. Like you are what I always wanted to be. Like, there's other aspects. It makes you love him, kind of, but you shouldn't really love, which is another safety precaution you should take with these beings. The best way you can work with them is not to get too attached and give them human attributions, because it's not what they are. Okay, it's not to hate them either or fear them, but the best way I could describe this is, like Belial told me, see it as a business transaction. Okay. We do not need the love or friendship, he says, okay? And we do not have all the attributions and faculties that human being mortals, as he says, would have, okay? So the best way to say this is, he says, as a business transaction, and to involve with it in respectful apathy. What is respectful apathy? We keep our feelings to ourselves. We do not push them into the spirit, and we do not put labels or identities to them which are mortal. Which we tend to do that as humans, of course, because it's hard to understand that you're dealing with something that is not human whatsoever. It doesn't share your views, your attributes, your what you see as love and connection. He doesn't have that. He sees things in a totally different way. Okay, and it takes years to understand how you're supposed to engage with these creatures in that aspect. A respectful apathy means pretty much there shouldn't be no love or no hate and fear shown to the spirit. Just understand its teachings, connect with it, and just go with the flow, and everything will be
like neutrality almost.
they have their hierarchy and ways, and everything will fall into place eventually. Both the above and the below, they are very, very organized. They are nothing like us, okay? And we don't need to worry about how organized they are or how they're going to organize us because, they already got it figured out when it comes to system, okay? They got their own system, they got their own hierarchies, everything follows a pattern, and everything is where it's supposed to be. So people shouldn't worry about that. But yeah, like I said, if you don't have the attributes needed, you shouldn't, dabble for fun into this. Because like I said, 99% of the case, 0.9% of the cases, you will be ignored, or that very small 1% of the cases where something bad will happen. Okay, because it takes trial and error, unfortunately, to learn these things. But the groups that shouldn't be associated with it shouldn't try to dabble for fun, and those who are should see things with an open mind. And like I said, go with the flow and let things develop in time as they would. And know that everything takes time. It will take years. So don't get discouraged and just try to drop off because the spirits will get you back. They'll bring you back. It's not shame to say, I dropped many times and ran away. The guy always came back and he was like, wait, you're running away from everything. The usual.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Where are you going?
I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
It was very childish at first, It was kind of like again, I don't want to bring the human factor into here, but you might end up having this fatherly, childish interaction with him sometimes, where he's giving up about something, and you're like, no, I don't want to. He's like, come here. He's like, no. But then it will make sense eventually, and you'll come back and you'll be like, oh, okay, you're right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. See, it's interesting because before I met you, it's interesting because before I met you, online and started connecting with you in this before the actual spirits brought me and you and connected us. I was literally on the urge of giving up all of this, like this whole path, everything. And they sat back and they were watching, and like I was expecting them to do the usual, like, oh, you're gonna leave it all behind, are you? But no, like instead they literally sat there when he's ready, like he's ready, and that's when I did my abyss crossing that night, everything. But the moment I was ready to leave all this behind, they sat there and they're like, yeah, he's ready now. He's ready for the abyss to go crossing in the abyss.
It's funny you mentioned that because you never told me you were ready to leave when I came in.
Oh no, yeah, I was ready to leave. I was ready to put it all behind. Yeah.
Wow, well, everybody goes through this many, many times. Many, many times. But I mean, what I personally cannot say I have all the answers and, know it all because no man knows it all. You can spend many lifetimes learning and you will only learn a fraction of whatever is out there in the universe and everything. But it's hard to say. We all get to this point where you want to leave. But then I don't really think that once you get deeply into this, you can kind of just leave because from what the king himself told me is once you have awakened, you can never go back to being ignorant again.
Yes, that is exactly what he said to me as well. There's no going back. Like,
Never be a profane again once you are awakened. Once you have ascended, you can never go back down. There's only one way, and that way is forward and up. What he told me. Because I was also at this stage where I was like, oh, I wish I had never touched this. Why am I even getting out of it? Blah, blah, blah. But then it becomes clear later. It's not all fun and games, of course. There are negative situations, there are difficulties, because you are working with the beings who we could say, to understand them better, you can say they represent the negative part of the atom, just to understand in this way, okay? But they're also necessary for the balance of the universe, because If you are ever projected into where the trees are to see the representation of the universe, what I have seen personally is a white tree standing upwards, a black tree pointing downwards, and in the middle was kind of like a white square, which literally represents how electricity works. You have a positive polarity and a negative polarity. Now, what happens if these two don't have a neutral catalyst in the middle, they will never be perfectly balanced and stay where they are. What they're going to do is, magnetically, they will, and energetically, they will attract each other and crash into each other. So you can imagine what will happen there. It would be the worst cosmic explosion you can imagine. We do not have enough atomic bombs in this world to represent any of this if this happens. Okay?
Yeah.
So the catalyst, like a white world, I think that's what I have personally seen through my projections there of what the middle pillar is. It's a white world, it's a neutral world, there's no positivity or negativity there. There's nothing there, it's very quiet, not a sound, and many spirits can go in and out of it. Both infernal and angelic, you know. And when you stand there, it's like, oh, it's a neutral catalyst. And this is exactly what balances these. You know, it's perfect, literally, energetical perfection to keeping it steady. I've also seen, I also seen the universe as in, I was wondering how does it relate in relation to what I call as a joke, Big Daddy God. So, in that particular time when I was trying to figure this out, what they did is they took me to this kind of I wouldn't say it's a semi-astral world where I saw him, but he was made of gold and light, and he was standing like this with he was like, to me, he's always looking like a long haired bearded dude, and he had like a robe, which I think spirits will do that just to, they will take whatever image you have of them, so you can understand who it is, basically, you know? So for me, typical Hollywood, you know, robe dude, so that's how he appears to be. He's never appeared to me in anything different. Physically, I've seen him only once, where he literally came in through this ceiling and he ripped the veil like this. He was golden light. Okay. Oh, that was crazy. I was literally working on my laptop that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, before that happens, I was working on my laptop, and Hecate came through the wall. She was like literally that big, okay? Almost as big as me. Like she'd reach out to here, because spirits usually don't tend to be in this kind of form like that very tall, you know? We humans tend to be, since we're more rocky, solid, elemental-ish, you know? We're a little bit bigger. They tend to be a little bit smaller than the average human body. At least from what I've seen. In the astral, of course, they can be huge, but you know, when they manifest, they can be smaller. And she had like a black hood and kind of like a Nazgul looking thing. So I was like, oh, hey, what's up? What is this? And next thing you know, I see Sam Michael popping up from the wall on my right side, coming out in golden light with a big sword, just walking towards her. And then she was just like, walks through the wall again, goes away. And he just like, out with the sword, you know, sword there at the front, like, come in. And I was like, what is going on in my house? Oh, yeah. Well, once you open up, you can get times like that, you know?
Yeah, no, that's very hectic, man. Yeah, that's some hectic manifestation.
He comes in, he literally rips the veil open like that with his hands, and golden light, which is much golder than the actual sun, just pours into the whole room like, geez, it's so electric, you know? And I was just sitting there like, what is that now?
what is that?
Yeah, after having already seen these two things happening in front of me, I was like, oh, stop checking it. Oh, that's it, Michael. Oh. And then the God comes in. Boom. Hey. I was not.
This really explains why they don't manifest to me like that at all. That would freak me out, like real out.
Oh, the mom, once you open this is crazy. You go out there on the street and go, oh, there's a ghost floating. Whoa, happened. In the middle of broad daylight, not even night, not even dark. Oh, there's a dude floating. And you try to talk to them, and then some of them get surprised. You know, they're like, oh, where you go? He's like, oh. And then they fly away. Like, it's like, you know, like, he can see me. You know?
Yeah, no, I've had an experience like that before. I was at my old house, and I was sitting, right? And this was when I was very young, before I even did any of this, and I thought it was literally me, like just like slowly getting schizophrenia, but it wasn't. Little did I know this was actually some sort of ghost that was there, right? But like I only realized this after I started getting into this path. This was like 15 years old. I'm like 22 now, right? And I was sitting. I could hear two people talking in the corner of the garage, like two mumbles, right? And I was like, "What the fuck is that? Like, what is that?" So I looked at where the mumbling is, and I could feel whatever was talking just looking at me. Like he could hear us. Like I could feel them looking at me, and then all of a sudden I felt like the thuds on the floor, like someone was running. And I could hear the footsteps, and whatever it was ran up like right next to me and like just jumped up into my face. Like I could feel it but not see it, and I just got out of my seat and like went like, nah, I'm out of here. Ladies, left the house for the night. I'm going to a friend's house. Like I'm out of here.
Oh, the beginning is always like that. You will always get to a small point where you kind of like, you will question your sanity a little bit.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
but then you get all kind of crazy manifestations, or they will directly come to you and say, no, no, really, don't worry about it. You're not losing anything. You're actually getting it. You're not losing it. You're getting it. Okay? Then just be assured for that. I mean, they can also influence electronics. I've had Azazel pop up into my laptop.
Pardon?
Yeah. Like I was watching a little mantra of him, and that was from Behemoth X, his channel. So I was trying to use kind of like his rituals and mantras and music that he puts in as a ways of meditation to connect. That was way before I managed to connect with anything. I was still trying hard. We're not affiliated professionally in any way, by the way, with anybody mentioned, like I said before. And literally what happened is, as I was watching, because sometimes, when he plays this music and the meditations, he just has like he has like a big sigil flag, usually. He shows the temple, because he has like a big, huge, cool temple. Okay. Which unfortunately most of us cannot really afford. So
I tried in the back.
we all tried. Yeah, I mean, I have something small down here at the very back, so down there in the corner, but it works. You don't need a temple, to be honest. I mean, he said that himself. You don't really need
Yeah,
a
all
temple.
you need is a sigil.
Your mind does the trick. Okay. If you don't have the means or the money, of course, no one's gonna get angry. Spirits understand they're not stupid. Okay, you don't have the means, you don't have them, but at least put your mind into it, put your hard work. It's all gonna work out. But
Exactly.
yeah, what happened is I was looking at that mantra, and next thing you know, the spirit popped up literally next to its flag that was on the wall. Its sigil. Boom. But like when I seen him, he was like a tall, kind of dark cloudish on his feet, kind of like Hades in the cartoons, where he has his clouds on his feet all the time.
Like a sort of solar flare effect, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
but
lights going in and out like that.
it was only his feet, but it was pitch black. Like he didn't have feet. He had this kind of like black cloudish under his feet, swirling.
Mm.
And he was tall, and he had like very long arms, and a crow face, and red ruben shining light eyes. And if you look at them too long, you feel lost. You get hypnotized. But I realized who he is. I said his name, and then he just disappeared from the laptop.
True.
So that's one
It
way
is
of calling and reaching out when they do these things. Or like you'd look at cookies, for example, and it have some weird company name that starts with B, and then it turns into Billy, and you're like, what? And then you blink, and then it goes into the company name. That's reach out in ways like that, which does get tricky. I've had flies, black orbs, for example, black shadows of them coming, talking out of the blue. I've had flies appear out of nowhere, and the damn whole ceiling is covered, like many of them. Okay. And you try to kill one of them, and it disappears. And
even if you do kill that one, they'll keep coming back. Like they'll keep coming back.
Every damn night, like every damn night.
Yeah.
That's some of the ways they do reach out. I would say for now this was enough because we're over 1 hour. Hopefully they will let us upload this.
Oh yeah, no, should let us upload it.
It should. Usually it lets you over about an hour and a half. And I don't want to overwhelm people with too much, but there is much more to come, of course. So yeah, that's pretty much one introduction of the man's journey. It is a little bit extraordinary. I'm sure not many people have stories as such to tell, but it does happen, and it is what it is. And now we're here, and hopefully it will all keep going as positive as it already has been. Because from what I see now, things are only going good, and they're getting better basically.
And that's what matters. Evolution, definitely continual progression and evolution, 100%.
Inevitable action that is to come. Once you open yourself, the only thing, like the king said, you can never go back to being ignorant. You can never close anything once you open it. It can only go up and forward. So
Mm,
development and evolution is the only inevitable action that is to come. There is no going back ever after this.
100%, 100%. I fully forgot. I had this sigil to give.
Oh yeah, of
This
course.
is for the audience as well. This is a good sigil for infusing yourself with Mars energy for either working out, protection, or curse works. And both me and you have used this and experimented with this sigil as well.
Oh, it's amazing. Red Mars energy is amazing. You train like crazy for like I could go 3 hours on end, having only small 1 minute breaks in between. You don't get tired easily, and because it's fiery energy as well, when it does it, it can burn a ton of fat off you in a week. That's my experience.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yeah, and it's great for overall. Like the root chakra is filled up with it. Once you fill that up, it's amazing. Like the male sexuality also is affected very positively. So you how to say you're gonna feel like a teenager if you implement this correctly. And you do go to crazy mode when you train, especially when you get into this flow when once you start running and when you're doing your little bag work. Now I know why Mike Tyson moves like that.
yeah. I mean,
What?
yeah, I did a 2 hour
Like,
boxing workout with this man. I drew this on my left hand and like I did first a 45 minute weight session as I usually do. I didn't go too hard, but then I spent the rest of I think it was an hour and a bit like just boxing, doing heavy bag work, skipping, and like I'll be honest, since I had that on my left hand, that sigil, like my endurance went up and like I did burn quite a lot more fat than usual. I noticed as well.
Mars
So yeah,
energy beast is just you go blah, 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 you just go and go and go and then you come back out and the funny thing is you're not even tired. It's like I feel great.
yeah. It's like a energizer batteries almost. Yeah.
Sometimes it's like let's go home.
Yeah. Oh, I'm also going to mention, where can people find you as well?
uh,
Um,
to be honest, I was never really eager to go public in any way because like I said I don't have any monetary drive in any way. Like I do have a career that I'm working on. But according to spirits, they have urged me to go forward and put more knowledge for people out there, both for their safety as well as their education. I'm not sure if you just saw the fly that flew out.
I think I did, yeah.
It was a small one, very small one, just literally just going.
Yeah.
Uh, I've been doing that lately. Um, yeah. I do have it. They did tell me to pretty much open up a channel, and I do have a brand new YouTube channel called Dark Angel Alchemy, which we will be offering a link below in the description for people to find.
100%.
There is
100%.
more on it. This interview is going to go on it too, but I will start putting some more knowledge out there as well. I was going to do it, of course, much earlier, but I've been very, very busy with business meetings so far. And these last 2 weeks have been keeping me going. I've only, it's about 3 weeks that I have it. So I'm going to start putting more and more things into this as well. And there will be, of course, more mutual cooperation here and within our Facebook channel and with more and more people that we may find and connect and have some amazing content and knowledge to bring forth for everyone to use availably.
100%, man. 100%. Definitely. So, with that said, is there anything else you want to say before we ended this video?
Uh, be the erratic and, you know, make sure when you have a calling, make sure you don't ignore it to this. Keep an open mind at all times, okay? And do not stress or push things. Things will come into place. If this is meant for you, it will bring you in. If it is not, you are best getting yourself educated and finding a different way or a hobby to pass your time because this is life changing. And once it's in your life, it's not just gonna walk away, So I would say do not support blind dabbling for no reason. But if there is a calling there, do answer to it by making sure that you get the greatest amount of possible education that you can to keep yourself safe and as well being able to progress in both your spiritual path and in your life as well.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that. And I just wanted to add also to keep anyone who's watching this who is practicing to keep your mind, your body, and your soul disciplined and healthy. And that's
100,
all I have.
100%. Because one last myth I want to debunk before we leave. Substances do pierce holes in your protective aura, and there's tons of parasites out there. And once you're open as a witcher, you can go into a club and you can feel that energy, and everybody's pretty much invaded. Okay?
Mm.
Substances do not make you spiritually open. Okay? I mean, we do have facts to say that there were some herbs burned as offering to gods in ancient times, okay? But they were not consumed or smoked or anything like that, okay? Daphne leaves have been used, as in people would chew them, and then, you know, they inhale some kind of incense smoke, and then they're kind of like, you know, thinking they're going into a trance, but that's not really a drug per se, okay? This is Daphne leaves, okay? But the actual chemical substances do not make anybody spiritual, okay? Why do most people think they have a spiritual awakening when they do that, when they're involved with this? Is because basically you're abusing your insights, and what can happen is your astral double, your soul, can actually temporarily leave because it's like, you know, ooh, get me out of here with all this pollution.
It's yes, that's when you need to do soul retrieval and stuff like that. Yeah.
You are invaded by whatever the hell is out there that is seeking to feed and go into you. Okay, especially if you're in a place like clubs and bars, these places shine like beacons to these beings for invasion. Okay,
No, yeah.
that's why you see drunk, they look at like, you know, kind of like zombie mode, like soulless. You know, everybody's invaded, full of substances and full of alcohol. You know, at least to a healthy extent, you should keep it. Do not abuse anything. So don't think that, you know, it's funny. I mean, I don't want to finger point anybody, but there is occultists out there that are like, you know, addicts, and they go around going, "Oh, I'm a god." You're a god who can't even stop smoking and get off his addiction.
Yeah.
If you're
True.
any sort, at least show some strength of will and leave your addiction. You could at least do
Lead by example, 100%.
at least stop, you know, smoking or get rid of the drug problem that you have. You know, you come back out and say that you made a change for yourself and that people should actually look at this example because it's a healthy example. And in fact, although negative, they do support healthy examples. It's been told to me, I wish to stay as I am until the end of my days. The best thing you can do is boost your third eye, boost your spirituality, everything you can imagine. And of course, you will live much longer. Your physical body too, you know? Let's not forget that.
Yeah, 100%. Vampirism does help with that as well. In my case, I have kept myself looking fresh. But with that said, I'll stop this video right here. Thank you so much for doing this video with me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and wishing you all a great ascension.